KFAN.
Our next guest had a number. Wonder what it would be. Because I got to believe Russo Radio believes that when it's game night, he's got he's got another persona. Don't you think? He does.
Yeah, he puts the sport coat on. The alter ego shows up for sure.
If you had if you had to wear a number, Russo, to every press box on game night, what number would that be? What number would you think you would be? Any clue?
Probably 29. 29 is my favorite number.
Is it really? 29? Any particular reason? Is there a sentimental tale attached to
Tim Wallach. I was a huge Tim Wallach fan as a kid.
Interesting.
I was a massive Expos fan growing up. So
how did that happen?
And like early 80s, I was watching an Expos Phillies game on TV, and Tim Wallach hit a homer off Steve Carlton, and I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. So I just kind of became an Expos fan because my brother was a huge Mets fan, and I tried to do everything the opposite that my brother did. And like my brother is a Knicks fan, I grew up a Bulls fan.
Yeah.
My brother's a Rangers fan, I grew up an Islanders fan. My brother's a Giants fan, I grew up a Jets fan. But yeah, Bulls was the only one I couldn't pick another New York team. So and then the West Palm Beach Expos, I used to go visit my grandparents as a kid in South Florida, and they used to bring me to spring training games, and I used to wait outside for Tim Wallach, and he'd come out, and I'd help him bring his bats and stuff to his car and things. So in the 05 lockout, 04-05, I was covering the Marlins, and he was the hitting coach for the Dodgers. And I went up to him one day when I was covering the Marlins, and I told him the story, and he remembered it. So that was pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. So he was accommodating. He didn't like crush your dreams by being very dismissive and unfriendly with you.
But even funnier. So then the Dodgers, I don't know if they moved out. They were in Vero Beach, but I don't know if they changed out to do their spring training games in Arizona or what it was. But I was in a Residence Inn once in Arizona covering the Wild, and I saw him eating in the breakfast area during spring training there, and I went up to him and reintroduced myself. And he's like, "Yep, you told me that story about 6 years ago." So it's kind of funny.
Very funny.
But yeah, 29 would definitely be my number. That was my number as a kid playing Little League too, and things like that. So I was always a Wallach fan. I have a signed Tim Wallach bat even that was given to me as a gift from a good buddy of mine above my office, above my desk in my office at home.
That's good background. I don't know that I'd heard that from you. I knew that story. I am old enough to remember when the Expos first, came on the scene, became a new team. And I, in my mind's eye, I felt like the ballpark they played in felt like a softball field. I mean, it was like, I don't think the capacity was very big. It was a temporary situation. But it was kind of cool because it added to the ambiance a little bit that made you feel like this was different than, going into a big major league ballpark. And the fans were raucous from the beginning. I do remember that. Yeah. The level of enthusiasm and intensity was tremendous.
Yeah, when I was a kid, my dad brought me to Olympic Stadium, and we got to watch a Mets game. And Olympic Stadium is actually still there. About 10 years ago, I was on a wild trip, and I went down there just to kind of see it again. And the roof of that place was almost like it was basically like a tarp. If I remember, it was like made out of like bulletproof. I forget what the actual fabric was, but it was a unique looking ballpark to say the least. But I love still the logo. Bought a hat recently, actually, when I was in Montreal. It was just a sweet ball team, and honestly, they were great. Like I'm still convinced that if there wasn't a strike, I think at '94 that they probably would have won it all. I covered Andre Dawson down he was in the management with the Marlins, and And he won the MVP with the Cubs. I think it was 86. And Tim Wallach, I believe, was runner-up. And I remember going up to Andre Dawson one day, and I said, I knew he'd find it funny because he and I had gotten a little bit of a rapport, and he knew I was an Expos fan, and he knew I was a Tim Wallach fan. And I went up to him one day, and I just said to him, I think you robbed Tim Wallach for that MVP in '86. So he thought it was funny.
Are you old enough?
And it was cool.
Go ahead.
And it was the one other thing about that Marlins team that was awesome is that there were so many people from those Expos teams working for the organization because Dave Dombrowski was the GM. And so it was really sweet, like just getting to know like Dave Van Horn, who was their color analyst for a while and worked for the Montreal Expos for years. And so it was pretty sweet. I covered Billy Robinson down there too. Unfortunately, he's since passed away. But they had so many great ball players on those Expos teams in the 80s and in the early 90s.
Do you remember, are you too young to remember Rusty Staub? That's the Expo early. Like She was unbelievable.
Yeah. Oh, he had the greatest batting stance.
Yes.
He became one of the great pinch hitters of all time.
Enormous.
In fact, I was sitting, when he was playing for the Mets, we were sitting on the left side of the left field foul pole one day, and one of his last foul balls ever, he hit basically right toward us. And of course, I cowered and didn't even try to catch the ball, but my brother almost fell off the balcony basically trying to get it. But I used to love him, and Gary Carter I got to cover when he was coaching.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, he was a high school softball coach down at Benjamin School in South Florida when I was covering high schools. And he and I became really, really tight, actually. And when he passed away, I actually went to his funeral. But, same thing. He was another ball player growing up for those Expos teams. And when he got to the Mets, that I basically emulated his batting stance, too. He had the great, unique batting stance.
Yeah, those are some very, very, very good memories, that's for sure. All right, where do you want to begin? Can you tell us, is this like a top secret location and story you're working on leading to what's going to be a big scoop? Or can you reveal your...
you're talking where I am right now?
Yeah.
Oh, no. It's definitely not top secret. I'm in Cleveland right now. Joe Smith's actually on the road with the Wild covering tonight's game in Carolina and the Islanders tomorrow. I'm here covering the USA-Canada women's game tonight. They play at 7 o'clock our time. And then I'll go to Buffalo tomorrow and cover Saturday's game. And essentially, I feel like an intern. I'm shadowing our women's hockey writer, Haley Salvinen, just to get to know the USA and Canadian teams, just because I'm going to be covering the Olympics. And I'm not just covering the men's hockey in the U.S. I'm basically our USA hockey writer at the Olympics. But Haley double dips. She actually works for CBC. So she's going to have to do a lot of TV while we're at the Olympics as well. So there's going to be times that I'm going to have to cover both Canada and U.S. women's hockey. So I'm just getting to know the two teams the last couple of days here and in Buffalo, and then I'll actually leave in December the Wild beat for about 5 days and go to Edmonton and cover the rivalry series games there as they finally both countries pick their final rosters. But yeah, this is just sort of to prep me for Milan.
Before we get to some Wild conversation as well, talk to me about, you had an excellent Josh Harding piece. Tell me about, for those who've not read that story, update us on Josh and what people should know and why they should go make sure they read the piece if they haven't already.
Yeah, I still remember in 2012, it was around early November, and I got a call from Josh's agent, Craig Oster, at the time, and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" It was the middle of the lockout, and I'm like, "Nothing." And he goes, "Josh was wondering if you basically come to his house." And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." And I really had no idea what was going on, and I went out there and I sat down on his couch with him, and he told me he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and sort of gave me the rundown. The one thing I remember about it is that how brave he was. Like, he was just completely matter of fact about it and not exactly emotional, and just thought that he was going to essentially kick this disease's ass, but also be able to continue his hockey career. And for the next 3 or 4 years, he absolutely tried. In fact, in 2013-14, the first 3 months of the season, 2.5 months of the season, he was a Vezina candidate. And then, unfortunately, he had to change the protocols with his medication because of some concerns that he had. with what could be a side effect, and we never saw him again, essentially. And he tried to make a comeback the following year, and had one incredible game with Houston at the time, it was Iowa at the time. Down in San Antonio, made 50 saves, and then he played a week later, and in Charlotte, and he wound up in a hospital bed in Charlotte and had to retire after that. But it's an emotional story because, I feel naive as he was telling me all the things that he was dealing with behind the scenes to, one, try to keep playing, but two, to try to make comebacks. I really had no clue. I mean, I knew that he was having issues, obviously, back then, but I had no clue everything that he was dealing with. So it was a really good sit down with him. He looks great. He sounds great. He feels great. And right now, he's in that next career where he's an assistant coach at Edina High School. They've won 2 state titles while he's been on the staff. We're runner-up one year. I talked to Mason West for the story, the Chicago Blackhawks first-round pick, and who actually tomorrow night will be quarterbacking Edina in the quarterfinals against Eden Prairie. Talked to him about Josh as well. And so it was a really good sit-down, and it was great to see him and Backstrom and Dubnyk honored before the game on Tuesday night.
How would you describe or classify the current state of Minnesota's favorite professional hockey team?
I mean, they've won 2 in a row, so they're on a roll. They're playing a real tough team tonight, but a team they won in Raleigh last year and played great against. So we'll see how they play tonight. I mean, the state of the team, I'm not convinced yet that they've definitely turned things around. They got extremely lucky the other night against Nashville. And really probably arguably didn't even deserve a point, let alone 2. Should have gotten, 2 without giving Nashville a point, but Stamkos tied it with 0.3 seconds left. And then they won in overtime in sort of a controversial manner. But look, they've still got a lot of issues on their team. They're not getting balanced scoring. They are, Foligno hasn't even been on the ice for a goal this season. Their blue line's still pretty erratic, and their goaltending's been at times suspect. So I think that there's still some issues there. But look, they've won 2 in a row. They're going with the same type of lineup tonight, and they're going to get Zuccarello back most likely tomorrow night on Long Island. So, when Zuccarello comes back, suddenly Johansson goes to the second line, Tarasenko goes to the third line, Nestroza probably goes to the fourth line, and now you start to balance out the lines a little bit. And then the hope is that Nico Sturm could get back around December 1st, and they're starting to get a little healthier here. So we'll see. But right now they still have an uphill climb, and they can't afford games like they did the other night against Nashville, where you're giving a point to a team ahead of them. So they've got to start playing much, much better. And it's a new month, and they're 2-0 at least right now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you take what you can get and then hope you can, kind of build on it, right? I mean, that's all you can do, and maybe we'll know a little bit more after tonight. So do you think the right call was made on the OT game winner? I mean, the way it was explained made sense to me that if there's a belief that the goalie is already trying to remove take the net off the goal off the mooring, that you're doing it for one reason and one reason only, you're responsible for it, and the goal should stand. What did you make of that ruling?
Yeah, I think it was 100% the right call. I basically called it at the time, and then the referee pointed good goal, and I think that I didn't know what was taking so long. I get why Nashville fans were ticked. I get why some people are questioning it. The rule, the way it's written in the rule book, is probably a little too broad, and it wouldn't shock me if they start to specific it up, so to speak, at the GM's meetings. In fact, there's one coming up in the next couple of days for the Hall of Fame meetings, and then there's obviously the one that I cover every year in March, and that's usually the one where they talk about new rules and recommend things for the competition committee. But the way that I look at it is this: one, he, in my eyes, intentionally knocked the net off the moorings. He did it in the first period as well to ruin a wild power play, and he did it there. Now, did the net come off a little too easily? Maybe. The league, I think was going to at least look in on that, because I know they've had issues before with the ice crew at Grand Casino Arena. And if you're listening to this and you're on that ice crew, I'm sorry, but that is true. It happened a couple years ago with the Matt Murray thing, and so maybe they're going to check in there. But to me, I mean, he sees Kaprizov coming, and that was not your normal push. He basically pushed. He was not trying to push side to side. He sees Kaprizov coming. He thinks he's going to one-time it. He's got no defense essentially in front of him, and I think he reacted by trying to push the net off the moorings. Then Kaprizov goes backdoor. It's a deflection. The puck, because the net is off its moorings, hits the side of the net, comes back at Johansson, and he alertly, smartly put it between where the net would have been. Now, the way the rule is written is that's the way it has to be, that the puck, that the league and the referee needs to deem it logically that it would have gone in had the net been off the moorings. There's no place in the rule that defines when an imminent scoring chance is going to end, or says that if the first shot doesn't go in and you go for a rebound, that doesn't count. So to me, this was still always an imminent scoring opportunity, and it would have been that way if he had not pulled the net off the mooring. So I think it was the right call, personally, but I also think that this is one of those things where the league's going to have to look at the rule book and probably, maybe add some more specifics there to stop what was a controversial ending. I mean, even, very respected hockey experts, thought that should have been a goal that should not have counted. I can tell you that I got unsolicited text messages from current and former NHL goalies that said that Annunen 100% was trying to intentionally push the net off the moorings. But that doesn't even matter. I mean, the way the rule book is written, it could be accidental as well. So even if this was a total accident, to me, this should have been a good goal by Johansson.
How would you grade Kaprizov to this point in the still relatively young season? How do you think he's played?
Probably C+. I mean, look, he's getting better. I will say that. He scored some big goals and made some big plays in the last couple games. Obviously, point total and goal-wise, extremely respectable, near the top of the league in both categories. But I think he's trying to do a little too much, and I think he's been a little too high risk, high reward, especially with, cross-zone passes that are getting picked off that I think are easily, in my eyes, predictable and something that other teams are pre-scouting, because you see it, especially on the power play, where guys are picking off his passes. And, look, because they haven't been very good, a lot of times when you turn pucks over, if it doesn't end up in your net, you just sort of forget about it. But he's had a lot of goals against this year because directly off his turnovers. So I just think that, the one thing he probably needs is Zuccarello being back. Yeah. I mean, I was even talking to Bill Guerin about this the other night. I mean, the other thing about that Zuccarello being back is that it'll also just really improve his mood. He hasn't been in a great mood at all, lately. So I think that, look, they've won a couple games in a row. He's been huge parts of these last two wins as well. And when Zuccarello gets back, I assume they're going to just throw him right onto the line. And then that'll start to deepen up the lineup and probably help Kirill both on and off the ice.
Dan Winnesota, unofficial historian for the sports historian for the Bumper to Bumper program, has a question for you. That goal at 0.3 of a second, was that the latest regulation goal ever given up by the Wild? He says, asking for a friend.
Yeah, I believe it was. I don't remember any others. I covered one that was 0.1 once Madison Square Garden. Brian Leach scored that one. You know what's really interesting about that one? That was against Florida. At the time, I actually called Elias Sports Bureau, and in the history of the NHL at that point, any goal that was scored in the final couple tenths of a second, the team that gave up the goal always lost in overtime. I can't remember what the exact stat was, and I don't remember what that tenth was. But then, so the other night, I just thought the Wild were going to crater because of that. And then obviously they came out and played a pretty good overtime and wound up getting the goal, and that, as we just talked about. But yeah, I believe it was the latest. I'll tell you what, Johansson, what a great play on that entire sequence. He's the one that picked Eric Hollis' pocket in the defensive zone to create that counterattack. And Marcus has been really, really, really good this season. He's got 6 goals, 6 assists. He's got a 6-game point streak, and he's a couple games from his 1,000th. So he's been a real bright spot for a team that hasn't had a ton of them.
612 guy, well, you're probably getting this a lot. Louis and I talked about it some too on Tuesday. Why aren't they playing Urov? How can he get better from the press box?
Yeah, so we're going to be doing a big column on this for Monday.
Good.
I believe Monday or Tuesday by Joe and me. And look, the deal is here is that there are conflicting interests. Okay,
Yeah.
you have obviously a fan base that wants this kid to play, develop, get big roles, and things like this. You have a GM that probably is worried about the long term as well, but there is an edict by both Craig Leopold and the GM to make the playoffs, to win now. And right now they've won a couple games in a row, and you have a coach that's I hate to say it like this, but trying to save his job. And so his goal, because of what is the edict, is to win. And so he's going with the lineup of guys that he absolutely could trust right now, and very few coaches change winning lineups. So, he's going with a fourth line of Ben Jones, Tyler Pitlick, and Yakov Trenyan, that in the Wild's last 3 wins, which have come in 11 games, they have been the fourth line. So I think part of it is superstition, like a lot of coaches do. I think part of it is that he's going with guys that he could trust. When this all changed, remember, he put Z Boyum and David Juracek together, and the reason to do that was to get them both away from Jared Spurgeon and Jake Middleton. He put Jared Spurgeon back on the top unit. He put Brock Faber on the second unit. This was all to try to get them to feel more normal, feel more comfortable, and start playing much, much better. And that so far has been able to be achieved. So right now, that's just the way it is that Zeev and Juracek are on the third pair. Juracek's not playing tonight. Huntz will make his season debut. And because they've won the last couple games, Europe, who was supposed to get a quick breather, is in the press box. I think where fans are really ticked off, and justifiably so, is that they look at the fact that you could take a Tyler Pitlick out of the lineup, and you're probably not missing much at all by putting a Danilo Europe back in the lineup. And I guess my biggest question, and we're going to talk to Billy about this today, is now that Matt Zuccarello is coming back, it's going to make it even harder for Danilo to get in. So what is the best thing for him? Do you send him to Iowa? You just put him in over one of these kids that aren't one of these guys that aren't the futures. It's a real convoluted one. It's a convoluted answer to you, but it's a convoluted situation that they find themselves in. And but this is the conflict that they sometimes have. Like Judd Brackett, I guarantee, is with the fans here. He wants the guy to play and to play big roles. But the reality is that this is not, if John Hines was told, look, we don't care about winning, just play the kids, he would do that. But right now, the expectation of this organization is to make the playoffs, and he's going with a lineup that he absolutely trusts more. And that's just why Danilo is wound up, and he's unfortunately the casualty of this right now.
Yeah, and so you take this calculated approach, knowing ultimately it might not get you very far in the playoffs, and you also might be stunting the long-term growth. That's the tough part about it.
Yeah, that I know is what the fans, they don't want this to just be another Murat Hussein or something like that. And the only thing I'll always say is, like, I get it. Like, trust me. But Danilo Europe has a long career ahead of him. And so, like, just because he's in the press box for 3 games in a row at age 21 years old doesn't mean that this is going to ruin him at 25 to 28. But I do agree that at some point you got to play the kid, and you can't just play him on the fourth line. And we're seeing, like right now, I think fans are concerned, did the Wild give up on Murat Hussein too early? Look, I don't think Murat performed very well here, but he was also a young guy that was playing fourth-line minutes with fourth-line players, and now he goes to Boston, and we've at least seen in the last couple of games with him playing with David Pastrnak that he looks like a very, very different player. He's scoring shootout winners and game-tying goals and game-winning overtime goals. I mean, he's had a hell of a week, and Wild fans look at him and say, well, 1, they gave up on him way too early, and 2, he never got those type of chances here in Minnesota. So I think Wild fans are just like, hey, don't do the same thing with Danilo Europe now. And there's absolutely a rationale to that. But I still think Danilo is going to be a great player. I don't think this is going to affect him long term, but I do agree that at some point they've got to give him the opportunity to play and to play in significant roles, so we know if he's able to do it.
We appreciate you, and we'll chat again next week. Thanks as always.
Awesome. Take care. See you, Dan. Oh, by the way,
Yes.
iHeartRadio right here on Cleveland, it's a block from me, and their studio is right on the street level. Like, you could watch it from the glass. So
one of those
I did
deals.
text Chad Abbott.
I'm very jealous.
Suggested that maybe, I think that you should do the same thing. It could be like the State Fair year-round.
It could be a lot of fun.
Just drop your studio right to the lobby
Could be dangerous.
of your building, and
Yeah, there's two ways to look
fans
at
could
it.
watch.
Yeah, there are some stations who do that. It's a great look. There's no question. Aesthetically, it's beautiful. I don't know if we can get to that
CCO
first
TV
floor.
used to be able to watch
Yes.
from the.
Yep.
Yeah, I think they changed that. I think for security reasons as well. All right, man.
They don't want people seeing Rosie.
That might have been part of it, too. We'll talk next week. Be good.
Yeah, take care.
Russo Radio helping us out, giving us some good baseball background. A big Expos guy from back in the day. Who knew? All right. The deal is, in about 30 minutes, we'll be joined by Alec Lewis to talk the very latest on the Vikings, injuries, and everything else at 5 o'clock today. Inbox at 5:30. Let's first try to put some bonus bucks in somebody's pocket.
The Fan and two men and a junk truck want to do just that. It is our national cash contest. The 4 o'clock keyword is cash. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword cash.
Last night, I did duck out a little bit early to try to be on time for the, dare we call it a world premiere? I mean, there'd been some soft openings already, but it was sort of the official media open of the new musical called Purple Rain. That is presumably, the intent certainly is it's headed to Hollywood. And I will admit that some of the word of mouth on it before I went lowered my expectations because there have been some folks who are rooting for the concept big time, but were not pleased with what they had seen. So my expectations were, they went in kind of low, largely because of that, but I was also trying to do my damnedest to have an open mind. I would classify myself as I've never been religious about Prince, but I've always been very, a lot of his music I've enjoyed, bought, played, we talked about over the years as well. And so I was quite curious to see what they could do. It seemed like it made all the sense in the world to give this a try. And I came out of it not that dissimilar. I saw the Bream had a piece that said StarTribune.com. I think there were two Star Tribune critics who both kind of weighed in on it. And I tended to agree. I think Bream is harder on it than I would be. Here's the way I would divide it. I thought the music and the musical presentation was outstanding. I thought it was very good. Thought it was creative. The highlight for me was I think the kid who plays the kid his last name is Collins.
Okay.
And the end of the first act ends with his rendition of The Beautiful Ones. And I thought it was like outstanding, like really, really, really effective and good. And there were a number of other musical moments that I thought were outstanding. The dialogue and some of the episodes that are supposed to be the bridges, between the musical sessions, I thought need work. I came away from it saying that's extraneous. I didn't really get that much out of that. Part of it also was, and I don't know if this is just an audio issue. At first I thought it was me because I can't hear. Might have been the location because we were in the the upper balcony, but there were stretches, especially early, where just couldn't follow the dialogue. It was muddy, which made it kind of difficult as well. But I definitely came away from it saying, keep tweaking it, man. Keep working on it. I don't know what plays on Broadway. That's the place, man. And the criticism is very tough there. My understanding is they've got some time after they get there before they open the thing in New York. But there's a lot of it I liked. There were a number of places where I say, I tightened it up here. Or I might have gone with a little bit different approach there. There's a video component of it that I'm not sure I was crazy about as well. I'll just leave it at that for folks who might go. But I thought, again, and you can argue that sort of show is really more than anything about the music. I mean, in most musicals, that's the case. But on good, effective musicals, there's good dialogue also,
For
right?
sure.
That hold the whole thing together. And I think that's where perhaps a little more work needs to be done. And there's already apparently been a lot of tweaking, and there may be more coming down the road. The actor, who I think is an experienced Broadway stage actor, who's Jungle Love guy?
I have no idea. Jungle Love?
No, that's not the song I'm thinking of. Morris Day.
Oh, Morris Day.
He is outstanding. And you could argue, like a lot of people said, he kind of steals it to a certain extent. But then again, like in the movie, his character is a lot more upbeat than the kid. The character played by Prince. But I thought he was very good and very funny. There's a lot of really good funny moments as well. There were a couple that I thought didn't quite work out. The actress who plays Apollonia, outstanding. That's a big element of this story as well. And I also thought the dancing was very good. Also thought that was a very big part of it. So for those who might have already gone, text me and let me know what you think. And maybe some of you, because they opened it up to the public yesterday as well. We also could have sworn, but I haven't read this anywhere, that Spike Lee was spotted
Last night?
Yes, last night.
Really?
But
he wasn't at Nick's Wolves.
Well, that's what didn't make sense. You'd think, well, he would be at Nick's Wolves, but maybe I don't know if he's an investor. I don't know if maybe they said, Spike, we'd love your opinion. Give us some feedback on this thing. I have no idea, but I think,
or to see it to maybe be an investor.
Well, that's true too. I don't know how that thing works. Yeah,
interesting.
But I don't think we hallucinated it. But I have not read. I didn't look at Star Tribune. I didn't see anything about him being there. So I don't know. Maybe it was wishful thinking.
He wasn't up in the balcony with you. You couldn't make make a clean identification.
This was pregame.
Yeah.
This was actually, he was checking out the hoodies. He was checking out like the paraphernalia that was available.
Interesting.
And I mean, it was. He kind of and he walked. He kind of had his head down a little bit and his hands behind his back like he tends to do when he walks. And it was like, so if somebody else saw Spike, let me know. I mean, I'm a little offended, angry with myself that I didn't say, well, just go up to him. He's got no entourage.
Right.
It was just him.
He's out in public.
And maybe we get him on today.
Maybe we could have done a show from the cage today.
Oh,
had him just walk over from wherever he was staying.
That would have been even better. Why did you steal Kessler's ticket, Dan? So Kessler, I heard that got ugly yesterday.
Yeah.
You guys.
Well, do you want the story after the straddle? Because
let's do the straddle.
We got a long Vikings report to get to as well.
Let's do the straddle. We'll get the Vikings report going. We've got Alec Lewis, speaking of Vikings report, with us at 5:02, and we've got the inbox open up at 5:30 as well.
Time now for the Vikings report on the Fan, presented by Miller Lite. Vikings wide receiver Adam Thielen joins Dan Barreiro next.
Nick in St. Paul writes, for Spike Lee, it's faith, family, finances, and free throws. Good alliteration
Makes
there
sense.
for sure. Our old friend Jon Bream, kind enough to call the hotline while we were chatting about my experience last night at the, the official, I guess, media opener of the new Prince musical. Bream joins us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. You were, if I remember correctly, it was kind of a back and forth. I think you were tougher. You were a little, I think, more critical than your compadre. Is that a fair assessment of the way you guys looked at it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I hold Prince to a high standard, even though he wasn't involved with this, but it's still his music and his storyline, so to speak, and didn't live up to the Prince gold standard, but didn't expect that it would.
Is it salvageable? I mean, you know how this process goes. Is it too much to hope for that it can get to that spot where Jon Bream might give it the seal of approval, or is that too big of a challenge at this point?
I think it's a significant challenge if they want a long run on Broadway. You know, the music will carry it to a certain extent,
Yes.
but the book, the storyline has to be improved. The acting has to be improved. The show needs to be tightened up. I was sitting by your friend Spike Lee.
Yep.
He was a few rows behind me across the aisle. He was sitting on the aisle, and as I walked out, because I was leaving during the encore to go right, I looked at his face, and he did not have that New York Knicks are beating the Timberwolves face. He had the very stoic poker face.
Interesting.
So I don't know how we should read that.
Yeah.
But he is one of the co-producers of the project,
He is,
which
okay.
means he's an investor.
No, that's big then. Yeah. I wasn't hallucinating. We did run into him. So even though we didn't, had a great chance.
I went up and talked to him
Yeah.
before the show. He was sitting on the aisle, and I went up and introduced myself and told him who I was, and I'd covered Prince's entire career. So Spike stuck his hand out, shook my hand, and I said, Girl 6, and gave him a thumbs up. Girl 6 is a movie he made in the 90s where Prince did the whole soundtrack.
Is he a cat guy? Do you guys talk about cat at all? Or was it pretty short conversation?
No, I could tell he didn't really want to be bothered. You know, he was sitting on the aisle, which kind of surprised me, but he had his hoodie up over his sequined blue Knicks ball cap.
What did you like? What did you find particularly wanting in this production?
Well, the storyline is wanting. I agree with you. There were problems early in the show with the enunciation and diction of a couple of the characters and setting up the kind of whole show, which was frustrating at the beginning. The music is, you can't argue with the music. They've, the great songs from the movie, and they've added a lot of other Prince songs as well. The singing is quite good. Chris Collins is the kid. He's a good performer. He's a good musician. He's got those Prince dance moves down. He did the splits. That was impressive. But like Prince, he's a very wooden actor.
Yes.
The guy playing Morris Day, who played in Hamilton on Broadway, did a great cartoonish version of Morris.
Yes.
Him singing in the dumpster doing Gigolos
Yeah.
Get Lonely Too was
Very good.
hilarious.
Yep.
Probably one of the highlights of the program. And the woman, Rachel Webb, who played Apollonia, I mean, she's got, skills, acting skills, dancing skills, singing skills. She was very, very good too. But the storyline just is not clear enough. The dialogue is not strong. And most of these people in the secondary roles are not very good actors. The people playing in his band, they're good, solid musicians, but acting and speaking, they just didn't summon enough emotion.
I also felt late. The musical finish I thought was strong, but it felt very abrupt. It felt like, all right, we got to wrap it up here. It's getting too long, so boom, here we go. I didn't think there was not a seamless transition to get to that place where you say, okay, now it makes sense that this thing is wrapping up. It felt to me a little bit abrupt in that regard.
I would agree. If they hadn't pulled down the neon purple rain sign, you wouldn't have thought it should be over.
Yep. Yeah, that's very, very true. So how does one even go about? So, they have several weeks in New York before they perform, correct? Where there is more allegedly experimentation or tweaking or things going on, right? It's not like they get to New York and they just and they're on. There's a delay there, some time to work through some things then as well, correct?
Right, and it doesn't have a locked-in New York date. Mm-hmm. So this is just the tryout. And, now the producers will get together and go, okay, what do we need to do with this? Do we need to go to another city and try it out? Do we need to make, wholesale changes, or is it just going to be minor surgery? And then they might try it out in another city, or they might be able to secure New York dates based on what they've accomplished so far. And then they go to New York, and then it's similar. They have a period of previews, which, can be anywhere from 2 or 3 weeks to months and months. When they did the Spider-Woman thing with the U2 musical with a few years ago, that one had months and months of previews, and it still bombed. So it's hard to say exactly what's going to happen with this. The people behind the scenes haven't given us much information. It's just official opening night, so now they're waiting for a lot of feedback. They had some VIP type people were there last night.
Yeah,
including Dan Burr.
It doesn't get any more VIP. Yeah, but I was way. You were probably row 3 or 4.
I was row L.
Yeah, they take care of you. They're smart. They it didn't do them any good, but at least they gave you a good spot.
Well, you want to be close enough so you can see it and hear it. And
that's true. You need to be, yeah.
But like I said, and like you said, they had some diction or enunciation problems in the beginning, and it was very unfortunate because you're kind of setting things up.
Correct.
And they're not talking with proper Minnesota accent.
Well, no, that's very true. We're short on time because I got to get to some Viking stuff with Alec Lewis. One of the scenes that I thought was just a miss, extraneous, that some people based on the reaction of the crowd seemed to like, I didn't, was the dialogue, the back and forth with the therapist and where do you know which one I'm talking about? Where what was this? It was the two women talking back and forth, and I just found it, and one of them's talking about the importance of therapy and so forth. I just didn't think it was funny. It didn't feel like it had anything to do with the story as I remember it. And I know also you get to, it's not going to be exactly like the motion picture, but it was an example of a place where I said, well, I would take those 5 minutes and if you can't get rid of them entirely, use them someplace else to make some other point. That one I just didn't think it hit.
I agree. I mean, there were things that were included because they were tied to what happened in the movie, and there were things that were added, and I think oftentimes they were wed too much to the movie. It's nice to have the little iconic things like the motorcycle and the conversation about, purifying yourself in the waters of Lake Minnetonka. Yeah. But they stuck to too many things. One thing they changed that I really liked is they gave this a real strong feminist bent.
Yes.
That they had Wendy and Lisa joining Apollonia 6 and talking about how women should be able to play instruments and they don't need to dress up like hookers. I thought that was very important and totally different from the movie. They've definitely eliminated the misogyny and the violence and some of the things that were very dated in the movie.
Thanks for checking in. As always, we appreciate you. We'll be in touch. I know there's a lot to catch up on as we get into the rest of the fall and into the winter, so we'll do so very soon. Thanks, John.
Okay, and when will you be taking Kessler to the Purple Rain?
Well, I don't know. I mean, apparently we never got to it, but Guardsy said it got really tense in here yesterday where Kessler made it suddenly sound like, well, it was impossible for him to go. So I don't know what happened exactly. I'm not sure. Maybe he's not as big a Prince devotee as he wants the public to believe. He's a TV
good
guy.
Question.
So if you're in TV, the essence of that is phoniness. You have to, whether you are a Prince fan or not, you have to be a Prince fan or act like one if you're going to do TV in Minnesota, right? That's just the way the game works.
I think Kessler might have shown up if it was maroon rain instead of purple rain.
That might have been true. Thanks, man. We'll be in touch. Be good, John.
All right. Take care.
Jon Bream, Star Tribune and StarTribune.com. We're running a little bit late. I hope Alec Lewis will be patient. Let's get caught up on Ravens week. Injuries, little look back on what took place last week, how stunned was Alec with the Vikings' performance, and whether they can build on it, because that, of course, is what matters most. He is